Dude, that thing looks sick. This is not a Land Rover and failed air suspension. This is just a proper way to park your Vistiq. So Tijmen, they were inside, they were talking about how much they were trying to optimize the interior storage space. And this is like the opposite of optimization. Off-road test. Why are we even putting that on here to begin with? This is an American car. Americans don't know what Newton meters are. But
yeah, I can tell you.
You're even European.
Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Eaton, Ionna, and InfyPower. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure, hardware and software, gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI. Also, Ionna, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Ionna is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave. And InfyPower, the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am here in Michigan with the Cadillac Vistiq, the baby Escalade. In true Cadillac fashion, we are here after the dealers have already started receiving inventory. But the one Kyle and Tijmen drove, and the one that I actually gave a full tour on before it was unveiled back in last year, was more of the sport model, one of the more base models. You know, luxury and sport kind of sitting on the low end. Up in the higher end, we have premium luxury right there, which we will be driving today and getting a closer look at with things like air suspension, rear wheel drive, other things that Kyle and Tijmen didn't have a chance to look at. But here behind me is the Platinum. This is the one to get, as you can tell by the fact that they let you just slam it and then walk away. This is not a Land Rover and failed air suspension. This is just a proper way to park your Vistiq. Tijmen, what do you think?
I think it looks great.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, let's go see what this Vistiq's all about. Sorry, I have to start every GM video with the door being open chime sound. Welcome back to Out of Spec Reviews. We are here in Michigan with the baby Escalade, the Escalade Junior, the Vistiq. And actually, we've already done some content with the Vistiq. I covered the car very briefly last year when it was first unveiled. Just a quick walk around. We couldn't drive it or do anything. And then Kyle and Tijmen found a Vistiq at our local Cadillac dealer in Fort Collins because they're already out. They've been out for 2 months for purchasing. But here we are at the first drive event, and then ironically, we can't post this until a week later when the embargo lifts. So kind of funny how that works. That's very normal at this point for Cadillac, and even we've seen that with Kia. Just, I don't know, kind of confusing. Curious what you guys think on that, because there's been some debate in the comments on whether that's a good practice or a weird practice. I think it's less good. I think it's important that the media gets access to the vehicle before the rest of the world. Not to be selfish, but just to like give you guys an accurate representation of what the car is like before you make a buying decision. But I do think this car is very good, as Kyle and Tijmen have already pointed out. So today we're looking at the Vistiq even more. And it's not just repeating what Kyle and Tijmen already did, because we have with us some premium trims. This introduces air suspension, rear wheel steering, the augmented reality head-up display. A lot to get into with this video. Let's go film the Vistiq Luxury. Sorry, wait, luxury is the base model. That makes sense. Let's go film the what is it? Premium luxury? And then there's also platinum. That's that one. Yeah, we'll get this by the end of the video, I swear. All right, now we're out here in the lawn with the lake behind us. This is actually an old golf course, I believe. Now converted to, I think, a wedding venue? I don't know.
Yeah, wedding venue and a horse ranch. I heard them screaming earlier.
Yeah.
And it's not a lake, it's a pond.
Okay, what's the difference? At some point, there's a size. This looks good, although it just raised. Ah, man, it looks good when it's slammed. We have a whole video over in Out of Spec Bits, shameless plug, on the design language, speaking with one of the design managers of the program, talking about the platinum version, which is really just the way to go if you're going to Vistic.
For real, because then you can get these black arches paint matched.
Yeah,
and everything else is kind of blacked out.
This becomes paint matched these become paint matched, all the chrome becomes black. Really, really, really like I like the Sport and the Platinum. Basically, if you're going with Vistic, I like it all blacked out. But there's a lot of customers who like chrome. And so that's also kind of a Cadillac thing, I think. So you have variations in the grille design. You have, of course, the Cadillac up and down design with the lights, a huge stack here. And the vehicle, of course, greets you when you walk up to it. Says goodbye, I guess, when you walk away. I'm not really sure, but I guess it has all that proximity stuff. Although I've not heard any news of phone as a key, which is a lot of people's big complaints with some of the Cadillacs. Tesla's had phone as a key for a long time.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that well.
Yours doesn't work that well. Mine works flawlessly. Depends which Tesla you have. Got to get something new enough, I guess. But this is 2025, and we still don't seem to have phone as a key on this Cadillac. Also, come around the side with me. We still don't have NACS. Maybe this will be the last Cadillac to ship with CCS. Ugh, that's not pretty.
It's called NACS now and not NACS.
So maybe we'll see NACS. I feel like when you and Kyle looked at the Vistiq, you guys didn't like this charge port.
Yeah, the door is going the wrong way because the cable's going to come from the front of the car.
Yes, but the cable will come down here. So I don't think it'll ever interfere.
Well, I'd hope not, but it still seems super flimsy.
Yeah, so I personally like manual charge ports, but that's kind of the direction Cadillac's gone. Otherwise, yeah, we're looking at the premium luxury today. Blue exterior, blue interior.
Yeah, and blue interior is hot.
Yeah, this looks really nice with the like walnut type of grain on the wood.
Yeah, this
kind
is
of the
nice.
brushed metal. So I really do like the premium versions. I guess let's talk price first of all. So the one you and Kyle drove, was that the luxury or the Sport? You're not sure. Either way, it's one of the base models, which I hesitate to say base model because there's still a lot of things included with it, like standard Dolby Atmos 23 speaker AKG system, standard Super Cruise, which by the way, Super Cruise is going to become standard on all Cadillacs
in 2026.
Starting in 2026, or maybe it's 2026 model year. This is 2026 Vistiq, by the way, so maybe that helps. And this is also the first one to feature the augmented reality display, which we should be able to check out in the driving impression area. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, this is the biggest grille Cadillac has ever done. By the way,
I mean, the one on the Platinum looks way cooler than this, but
yeah,
it's still pretty sweet to have it this big.
Yeah, but the reason this is bigger than the Escalade's grille is because the Escalade has to separate the segments because it has an opening frunk. No other Cadillac EVs have a frunk. Okay, I guess Celestiq does, but it's hilariously tiny. So Optic, Lyriq, Vistiq, no frunk. Instead, you have all that huge open space, which I know you've seen in the other video, guys, but I'm still gonna open it because
it's a double pull. Did you get it?
Yeah. It's just kind of silly to me.
Oh my, you could put a body in there.
So Tijmen, they were inside, they were talking about how much they were trying to optimize the interior storage space. And this is like the opposite of optimization. Their, I guess, rebuttal to that is they removed a lot of things from the back of the vehicle to then put into the front to free up more storage space in the back. So it was somewhat intentional, but that being said, I still think they could have put some sort of frunk, especially when we've seen how small the Celestiq frunk is. We know there's some level of frunk that's worth it. You could even do something kind of shallow, like the EV6 Ioniq 5.
Yeah, I think something super shallow to where you can fit your charging cable in is all you need.
Charging cable, car cleaning supplies, because you always want this to look nice. That would be kind of great. Wheels, 22s in this case. You can upgrade to 23s on this trim. The Platinum also has 23s, which looks super good. Or 21s on the lower trims, Sport and Luxury, which again, is funny to me that Luxury is like entry model, but hey, it's all, and it's really just design. I guess let's talk powertrain because, well, 615.
Yeah, 615 horsepower, 102 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah, so same Lyriq battery.
Yeah, it's a Blazer SS battery, is the same thing.
Yep, 650 pound-feet of torque, or, come around back, 880 Newton meters. I'm trying to understand why this is such a thing on GM products. They put this number to represent Newton meters, but it's always rounded up pretty much because this talks about 900 Newton meters, but it's actually 880. And I was talking to Jason Finsky about this because he was like, why are we even putting that on here to begin with? This is an American car. Americans don't know what Newton meters are. We don't
Yeah, I
use
can
that
tell
here.
you.
You're even European. But that translates to, yeah, 650 pound-feet of torque if we're talking American units. And that 615 horsepower translates to, I think, 458 kilowatts. So pretty spicy. That's all in V mode, 0-60 in 3.7 seconds. We'll test all that out on the road. I'm pretty excited to try it out. But they all get the same powertrain. Even the entry models, they all get the same dual motor, dual permanent magnet motor, which is funny because in the original, when I first saw this car, they said permanent magnet, and then they sent an email with the specs list and it listed asynchronous rear or front, one of them. And then they sent an apology correction later, but it was after I'd already put up my last video. So my first video has the wrong motor information. I digress. Styling wise, I have liked the Vistiq from the beginning. I think it looks like literally a baby Escalade. And that's what they call this.
I think the Escalade looks better because it's just bigger.
Yeah.
And fits the Escalade brand a bit better than these smaller models.
Yeah.
But not the design of this and the proportions, like that was talked about in the bits video, are very well executed.
Yeah, it has the more boxy shape. So when this was first unveiled, we hadn't heard about the Escalade IQL, which is the slightly longer, more boxy version. So it was just Escalade IQ versus this. And I like this design far more than the Escalade IQ, at least from the back. From the front and kind of the front angle side, you're right, Tijmen. I think the Escalade just has the ultimate road presence. It's the epitome of, you know, it's got more than double the battery capacity of this. I mean, it's just a crazy
American SUV
behemoth. Yeah, I mean, I think it is actually literally the double battery. Like, it's just double stacked this battery. But that's interesting to me because I think something like this, they're really leaning into what they feel like people are wanting for range. I think a lot of studies are pointing to people saying we want 300 miles of range, and so that's what Vistiq gets, up to 305 miles of range. Of course, that's with the smaller wheels and tires, I believe, but that's, I think, fine.
Yeah, they wanted to stretch that every 3-row SUV should at least get 300 miles of range.
Yeah.
But real world, this will probably do like 250, 270.
Yeah, I'm really excited to try it. I bet it'll do 250, which I still argue is enough for most people. I do wish the charging performance was better. It has gotten better over the years with updates, but you know, the Lyric battery, it's not class leading. You know, when you look at all the competition, which we've kind of made a chart of all the 3-row SUVs really that are electric, this has one of the least high peak charging rates. Now the curve matters more, of course, and they've improved curve and everything over time, but we need to do an updated charging curve on this battery to really
we keep getting them full of charge for this drive, the last drive.
Yeah, they always give the cars to us full charge, which is kind of a bummer for us who kind of want to go drain it. And this is a very tight event. Like, we only have like a couple hours to film this, so we don't have the time to go drain it out and then charge it or do any efficiency runs. So we'll just have to wait till we get one back at the office to really try more things. But back to design. Yes, sculpted, hidden rear wiper. That looks great. I really, really like that. It's funny when I see, you know, the new Ioniq 5 that was updated, they added a rear wiper, but it's not hidden at all. So on one hand, you're like, oh, respect, new Ioniq 5, that's cool. You have an ACS, NACS, whatever. But the rear wiper is not hidden at all. It's just like plastered on there. Whereas I see an older Ioniq 5 and it kind of looks like something's missing, but it could have just been hidden. I don't know. They did that well here is all I'm trying to say. The split taillight design, that's, you know, the Cadillac EV signature thing that also really differentiates this from the full-size Escalade, which just has the full vertical beam going down. And this thing, I forget the term he used, but basically these strakes in the window are done through the feature of double pane glass, which helps with NVH and stuff. But that's kind of a design element they've implemented into Vistiq and also optic. I am torn. I think it looks okay.
I think it's fine.
It adds a unique element, but I actually don't like sitting in the third row looking out. Like,
I've never sat in the third row of this. So
maybe you should try that. I don't like how it affects the third row as far as like I guess it adds an element of character, but it also literally impedes your vision looking out. So I guess it's 6 on one hand, half dozen the other as far as that goes. But Otherwise, yeah, this thing looks good. This is optioned with the black roof. You could also have body colored roof. I am torn on which one I would do too.
The platinum standard black roof though.
Yeah, platinum standard black roof, and then has body color everything else. This almost feels like too much black and chrome.
There's way too much cladding, especially in the wheel arches.
Yeah. And the platinum, this also goes to body color. So I think if you're looking at these, if you're looking at the 92 to 95 grand, that is this premium luxury, you may as well look at the platinum for just a few $1,000s more. Platinum spec'd with all the options is right at 100K.
And then you might as well go look at a Rivian R1S.
I was thinking Lucid Gravity.
Or that.
They're all, once you spec these up to the premium trims, which gives you the air suspension, which has about 75 mil of travel difference, it drops at 50 mil when you're kind of doing entry exit. And of course, with eco mode or highway cruising sport mode, it'll drop it maybe I think 20 mil, something like that. We have a whole chart on that as well. And then if you're doing snow mode or whatever, it'll raise it a little bit. So you do have that nice level of suspension travel. This thing looks great, dumped out as you saw in the beginning. But yeah, otherwise, it also gives you rear-wheel steering, by the way, which is 3.5 degrees. I feel like those are nice features, but then if you add those features by going to the premium trims, you're adding nearly 15 grand, some up to 20 grand, which then gets you up to that Gravity, which is more interior space in a relatively similar, maybe even slightly smaller package with a lot more range and way better charging. And I argue better software. So, yeah, interesting. Curious what you guys...
But there's not a waiting list for these.
Right. These are pretty much on dealer lots, so you can just go pick one up. Let's maybe get inside, kind of look at the interior a bit more. And, oh yeah, you tap it and then they open. Definitely different than the Model 3 that I'm used to.
You're not used to this type of luxury.
No. And I kind of want to get you in the third row, Tijmen.
All right.
Let's get your third row impression.
Oh, nice button right here.
Okay.
Wow.
Really nice actuation. I'm going to close the driver door because that GM bomb, dude,
is too much.
There we go. How you feel?
It's fine. We got a nice charger back here. Let's see. I mean, it's not all the way back, but I got plenty of room right now.
You have enough room.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. We could both sit back here.
So
Please don't. But
yeah, something they've said is when you go on the website and see the Vistic, it says 3 rows of luxury, which usually to me means marketing BS.
Hoopties.
But they're emphasizing that because the first, second, third row all have the exact same leather finishings.
Yeah, we got a nice little glass.
You have glass here, which a lot of times third rows leave out.
Your own
HVAC.
and charging.
You have 5-zone HVAC, so you have front, left, right, middle, left, right, rear as a whole, and charging. Actually, plug that in. Let's see if the output on the USB ports is the same across the board. The fronts seem to be about 28 watts.
So that's 30 watts. This limits it.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Oh, 41 watts.
Wow.
Even more in the rear.
More luxury in the rear.
Yeah.
That's nice.
First company in the United States to focus on passenger convenience.
Yeah. I mean, leave that plugged in. That's nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a third row, I guess. And, I mean, is it pretty comfortable?
I mean, yeah, I'm 6'1". Jordan's about the same, and he put the seat to his height, and the driver's seat's also set to my height. And, I mean, my knees are touching the seats, but it's fine. I could just move my leg to the right.
Yeah, I'd say it's a little crammed for 3 adults behind each other.
Yeah.
But for kids, which largely is the audience of this car, I think
Yeah, I have plenty of headroom, which is super nice. Like, I can, move left, and I'm not hitting, which is something unheard of, pretty much.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. And then looking out the rear window, though, how do you feel about those strakes?
See, as someone that likes to watch cars go by like a little kid, I hate this. But I think for everybody else, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I see the design. Nice. I see the design reasoning.
Oh.
But I also don't see like the necessity, and I see it as a problem if you're a third row enthusiast, which who really is, I guess.
Yeah, no one.
But nice materials throughout. Like we said earlier, the materials look good and they
Look
feel
good,
good.
feel good.
I like the colors. I really like everything, honestly. This, yeah, the fitment, everything on this is nice. I'm gonna open up the trunk here. Okay, let's check out the storage. You can't punch it. You have to gently massage it open. Yeah, pretty decent capacity. I'd say not class leading, but decent. I like seeing the sub trunk there. That's pretty great. And I'm guessing this is the EVSE, electric vehicle supply units. Yep.
Wow.
Still Ultium branded, by the way.
But we don't use that word anymore.
And this is only a 32 amp, which I think is interesting. So by standard, this has a 48 amp onboard charger. Unfortunately, if you use their built-in thing, it's going to be 32 amps. I guess a lot of NEMA 1450s would only be putting out like 40 amps anyways. But yeah, I don't know why this isn't at least 40 amps unless they're just like bundling it in with all their cars.
I think it's bundled with all the cars.
Yeah, so it's probably the same unit. You can option an 80 amp onboard charger. That is $1,500 unless you get the premium luxury or the platinum, then it's included. So if you really need that, but like you guys have said before, not really probably necessary with a 100 kilowatt hour battery. This is about the same battery as you find a Model X and an EV9, smaller than the likes of Gravity, Rivian, Mercedes EQS, SUV. So yeah, a lot of options. We're seeing the 3-row segment really explode. We'll show these closing again. The, let's see, 3rd row, bar, down. This one, boom. It gets blocked by the front thing there. So that's interesting. You know, the Model X, or sorry, the new Model Y, for example, has smart folding seats where it's power fold up and down like this has, but they're smart to where it moves the seat in front of it up just enough to where it knows it can fold itself. This doesn't have smart folding rows, it just has folding rows. So decent storage capacity, numbers are on the screen. And yeah, let's look at the front, let's look at the software. So in the driver's seat, which I'm trying to get comfortable.
You can sit quite low in this, which is nice. And you have a switch right away to where it turns on your massaging seats. It's supposed to show up. Oh, right there.
But we can only
do one at a time.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the screens here. 33 inch, I think it's 6K display. Great resolution. Maybe it was 9K, I don't remember. It's high K. I don't know. People keep putting 4K, 6K, K, whatever. Everyone's screen basically is the same now. It's all high enough resolution to where you can't perceive pixels, which iPhone, called Retina back in the day. I guess they still call it that technically. But it's fine. Although I will say it's not bright enough for me. Like, I would like it to be brighter. This is a cloudy...
we talked about that too with Kyle. It's just like, it's a cloudy day, so it's nice.
It's fine right now, but like, if it was any sunnier out, like, I'd want this to be much brighter if I could. I mean, I could always like crank it down, but yeah, this is a display. You still can't see your state of charge anywhere as far as I can tell.
Once you get out of the car and the door opens, it tells you.
I think when you get out of the car, it'll tell you briefly. You can of course always ask the Google Assistant, but like, I feel like you should just put it right here. I mean, you have the bar, but like, just give us the number. That'd be really easy to implement. The Escalade does that. So with maybe for this baby Escalade, have like a slightly smaller number. I don't know. But you have, the Google system here, which is fine. They have the Google Maps. It's very snappy, responsive. Honestly, looks pretty good. So I'm no real complaints with the screen. You can also switch this screen to show maps, although I can never remember exactly how to do that.
He's figured it out, chat.
All right, so yeah, there's a little like hamburger menu here, and then you can go to the layout, and then you can look at your energy screen, which ironically, the energy screen still doesn't show you state of charge. It just shows miles remaining, which is never a fully accurate statement. Then you can see the map view, which I love, because then you can mess around with everything over here and not worry about not knowing where you are. I'm gonna move this wheel up. Powered wheel, by the way. Doesn't come out quite as far as I'd like, but
nowhere near as far as it should.
Looks pretty good. Or the driver assistance system, which I'm excited to test out. Or the night vision, which is starting Loading.
It's been the first time that's ever been pressed, so we'll give it that.
Yeah, loading. There we go. Nice. Night vision detection unavailable. Maybe because it's too bright out. I don't really know. But that's pretty cool. And is this options? Ooh, sharpness and... Okay, I'm getting the hang of this. Oh, there's a sport gauge. I'm getting the hang of the display, but every single thing does not show state of charge, unfortunately. Maybe they'll work on that. We've only been asking for that forever. But yeah, so that's the upper display. Fairly customizable, fairly intuitive. I don't want to say best software experience, but also definitely not the worst. Like it's solid software. I don't love these buttons down here in the steering wheel. First of all, the moment you use it, it starts becoming a fingerprint city. But I love these upper buttons. So it's like a mix of praise and, what does Joe Rady say? Zonks. And yeah, stuff for adaptive cruise control, volume. Although one of my issues here is volume is right here, which instinctively I'd think next track and previous track is here, but no, that is different. This does something else. Next track and previous track are down here next to the phone call settings. Not really sure. Steering wheel heater though. And then we have these lower displays. So they're both 8 inches, the front one and the second row one right there.
Upside down.
Yep. That's fine. Basically the same display. The second one gives you access to the second and third row. So once again, 5-zone climate control. Awesome to see. And
so yeah, this doesn't do anything besides climate.
Climate, and then this also adjusts
your massage.
Massage is right here. Yeah, temperature and massage and position. So all the seat stuff can be done here as well, which is kind of cool. Yeah, there's the temperature. I think this display is a little bit angled down too much.
Yeah, I don't think they could have cut this curve out because it reflects a lot, especially with the big roof. But what do you think of this?
Yeah, this is another way to interact with this screen up here. Feels very Mazda. I was just using a CX-90, by the way, which is kind of a, I guess, somewhat a competitor. Not fully, but, you know. It's okay. Interestingly, the CX-90, which is lower market than this and less luxury, felt like a nicer experience. Like this knob feels kind of cheap.
Well, it seems pointless too. I mean, even if I'm driving, hypothetically, I would just be touching the screen.
Yeah, it's angled a little bit towards the driver, and you can just tap whatever you need here. So this feels like a little bit. I'm curious. Only Cadillac has the data, but I'm curious how many people use this instead of that. But I will say, if I'm like in, well, I was gonna say if I'm in CarPlay, but there's no CarPlay in here. I could see maybe using both. The volume slider needs to be more
yeah, but that's the only
responsive.
thing that's necessary.
But look at how many clicks it takes to go.
Well, down is way faster. Oh my.
Wow. So that's a little interesting. And then another nitpick, maybe I'll do a whole software video at some point. If I'm adjusting the volume and I want to go to volume settings, this is where I'd want to go immediately to treble and bass and stuff. That's not in here at all. You can't even get to that from here. That's a whole separate menu inside audio. This setting, not the other setting, and then sound. It's like 4 settings deep to get to the equalizer. So yeah, really pretty good sound system. Might even try to do a whole video on that because it's 23 speaker, AKG or EKG, whatever the brand is. Dolby Atmos, that's all standard on every single Vistic, which is awesome. 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos. Love to see it. The Vistic team claims it's better than the Optics team's sound system. And that's partially
it has 4 more speakers.
That's partially because it adds 4 speakers, which are the headrest speakers, which could make it better or worse, in my opinion. I guess I'll find out when we do more testing with it. But then you have all your adjustments here for my mode and the drive modes. I'm not going to do a full in-depth software video. That can be another day because we've covered GM software quite a bit. Do you like or dislike the glove box being on the screen?
Hate it.
You hate it? You just rather have a button down there?
Yeah, I'd have a button either here or somewhere on this display that's a hotkey. Or
just like right here.
Yeah, somewhere to where it's easy to press, because half the time I want a napkin or I just throw random things in there to where it's just like nice to get to.
Yeah. Acceleration feel.
Sport. Regular.
What, regular, touring, and sport?
Yep.
And the lower trims, it was just touring and sport. So I don't really... Oh, relaxed. That's interesting. Unless it's like a different software version, but the one I was trying out yesterday didn't have that. But touring, yeah, cool. You can adjust region, of course. You can set the level high, always. And you can tell it to show on the home screen. That's kind of nice. And then, yeah, this should feel pretty good. I don't know.
Let's go drive it.
We'll go drive it. So, dirt road impression. I'm definitely feeling pretty much every little undulation, and part of that is we're on the 22-inch wheels, so not even the biggest wheels. 21s would definitely have a little bit more comfort. And holy crap, first of all, let me pause, because the heads-up display is covering my sight. How do we...
Can you see that?
So the heads-up display is literally blocking the road. I gotta adjust that somehow. All right, so I have the augmented reality display on. The heads-up display is the smaller thing further down. The augmented reality one is what is literally kind of blocking my vision just a bit. But with the My Mode setup, it still has the same problem I have with most Cadillacs, where motor sound can't be turned off. It's just touring or sport. I wish there was just a third option that just is off. That'd be super nice. I feel like someone said there was a way to like go in even more and turn it off, but I've never been able to find that. And if it's not that intuitive, then that seems like an issue for me. But this is how I have my mode set up. This is how I am for most cars. I like everything more soft, smooth, except I've got brake feel in sport, acceleration feel in sport. That should be good enough. Wow. Switching between my mode and touring, instant throttle difference. Okay, back to my dual maps, just so I don't miss the turn, Okay, now we are getting out onto an actual paved road, and this is where I think it'll feel really nice, giving it just a quick flooring it without V mode. Plenty of power. Honestly, most people would be totally fine. Still faster than some of the EV9 offerings. But I think right up here, oh, by the way, we're on a blue cruise road, so nope, that disenabled it. You have to first turn on the system.
And then set traction, or not traction control.
And then set, nope, that's the other one. Set, there we go. Hands-free Super Cruise, now on, what, 500,000 miles of roads in the U.S.?
600,000.
600,000. Their goal was 700,000 by the end of the year, but we'll see. They've already done pretty much all the major roads. Now they're doing all the B roads, like this one, for example. We'll get to Super Cruise in a second, but I want to test acceleration. So, region hitting us hard. V max mode is on, and let's launch it. Yeah, baby. Feels good. So,
yeah, pole's good.
Yeah, pole's great. Honestly, plenty of power. No one needs any more. But even the motor, honestly, the fake sound's not the most annoying. But I feel like I would just leave that off and just do my mode how I had it configured and live with it. Ride quality though, so far, great.
Quite nice, yes.
Really, it just rides like a Caddy, like how you want it to. Steering feels pretty good. We'll hopefully get to a couple bends here in the road at some point. They had a whole drive route laid out, but that was like 2.5 hours of driving, and we're trying to film. Which part of it is filming?
We're trying to go to Starbucks.
Part of it is filming, but they had a drive route going to nice twisty roads, which is cool. But I think the real the real focused, more consumer-minded crowd, the potential Vistic owner, would probably be the person who just goes to Starbucks.
Yeah, and that just drives roads like this.
That's where we can really, really test it out.
I think this car is going to be a lot in church parking lots.
Yeah, probably. Back on Super Cruise. Yes, there we go. Lane centering. Oh, this is just normal lane centering, which does happen now. You and Kyle did a whole video on it.
Yeah, so lane
finally
centering currently only for 2026 plus models, but I asked if it's coming to 2025 models. He seemed a little indifferent about it, but will remain pre-mapped only.
Yeah, so we have no future that we could tell of a non-pre-mapped Super Cruise system.
Seems awful to me.
Hands off. So I don't know. On one hand, they'll just continually keep mapping roads more and more, which is great. But it still is kind of annoying. Even when they talked about the drive route today, they were like, you'll see this percentage of pre-mapped roads, but the amount of time the system changes back and forth between hands-off and hands-on, to me is kind of annoying and confusing, and I'd almost rather it just always be one
I
or
mean,
the
at
other.
least it has hands-on now.
Yeah.
But they were also saying they're not doing some roads, like this, for instance, and this turn coming up, because it is too sharp.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a limitation of the forward-looking sensors. They basically use the cameras to determine the lane, the lines on the road, and then basically they can't handle sharp right turns. Basically, a right turn at an intersection. So I don't know. That is, you know, on one hand, they're like Super Cruise like awarded best software of the year.
I'm
by
sure it's
Motor.
very safe. I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but I feel it's going to be a major downfall in the next 3 years, that pre-mapped only.
Yeah. Because I don't know, FSD doesn't require pre-mapping.
Yeah, FSD just does whatever it wants.
Yeah, so I do see both sides of it, though. I think it's worth a whole episode on driver assistance strategy variations, because on one hand, pre-mapped roads do mean you can operate at a pretty high level of confidence. On the other hand, it's just more limited, and I think a lot of people would prefer to have a system not tied to that. So Marshall Road, take it around the corner here. Nice.
Off-road,
Honestly-
and you feel it right away.
Honestly, the cornering felt pretty good. Like I feel like if I got this, I don't know, do you feel like the air suspension is worth it? Because the other one rides nice, the coil one.
I think the air suspension's worth it if you want to stance it out.
Yeah, if you want to look like even cooler than a L322 with failed air suspension, like if you want to look like it's intentional, air suspension's great. It does have a lot of travel, but it doesn't, I don't know, it's not like the most wafty and crazy comfortable ride, but I think they are trying to strike that balance of some sportiness, but also some comfort. And I'm kind of glad we're doing these kind of rougher roads, because I think they probably had nicer roads laid out for us, but it actually handled the settling over that bump pretty well. Like the
Yeah,
secondary,
single bump and-
tertiary bumps, like it settles out very nicely. Even the coil suspension, though, still have their kind of frequency response dampening system. So that's still going to ride nicely. I drove it. You and Kyle drove it. Like that's
Yeah,
still...
the sport and the luxury on the just basic setup is nice. It's still way better than Blazer EV.
Yeah.
Because the Blazer SS EV, because that's set up way too tight for the car for being a tourer. And here, I would have wanted this suspension in the SS.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's good. We're transitioning now from a gravel road onto pavement, 2-lane road, but then this one's not pre-mapped for Super Cruise. So it is just like your adventure may vary situation, but
Race car.
Yeah, it does feel nice. So I guess we'll catch you guys in a little bit at Starbucks and see how rear wheel steering handles the drive-through. Real testing here.
Race car Jordan is activating.
Drive mode sport. Actually, we're going V max here. Oh, it says distraction detected. Keep eyes on the road. It is watching your eyes, by the way. But yeah, we got a little series of corners here, and just gonna see how it feels. I love the amount of regen. That really helps. It kind of gives the actually the power out of the corner not too bad either.
Yeah, it feels pretty good. I mean, it's plenty for the average driver.
This is absolutely plenty of sportiness for what you'd need. But yeah, I like the level of regen for aggressive canyon driving, because then you have kind of the effect of like a high revved engine braking manual car. Obviously not the same experience, but that is kind of nice to have. But now that we're through that one series of corners, back to sport, or back to tour mode, which doesn't turn off VMAX. It's a separate thing. So then you turn off VMAX. Now you're back to just nice cruising. We did apparently go to the wrong place
And missed the turn.
So yeah, that was not actually a Starbucks. It was just an intersection for some reason. So now we're trying to go find the Starbucks. So now we're acting as though we were an annoyed Vistic owner who missed their Starbucks run. So I figured out how the augmented reality works. There's actually augmented reality, standard, and assist. Assist is what was annoyingly like in my line of sight. Standard is just the normal little heads-up display, and then augmented reality then adds little additional things.
If you can press it.
There we go. That adds little additional things like when you're turning or something, it'll kind of put something kind of effectively on the road. It's a decent implementation. I'd say not quite as good as Mercedes, not as good as what Lucid is promising to do, but Lucid hasn't actually delivered that, so I'm not going to hold my breath yet for that. But we are in this new era of augmented reality, and Cadillac is saying that having that tangible connection of, you know, the car displaying things that are happening on the road ahead of it, as like something that helps the driver. It helps give the driver something to look at, which helps keeps their eyes on the road. It's interesting, keeps the driver engaged, and it also gives the driver confidence because it tells you what the car is seeing. And I do think there's validity to that. I mean, Tesla notably doesn't have any sort of head-up display, but they have the visualizer of, you know, when FSD is active, so you can see what FSD is seeing through that. It's a different implementation. I actually really do like augmented reality head-up displays. I think they're interesting, and if this is the first iteration, pretty good. They can always get better with time, and I think this is rolling out starting with the Vistic, but may roll out to other cars. We don't know how far backwards compatible they would be. Maybe it depends on the head-up display hardware, but it is done with kind of a laser effect, so it's really bright, really crisp and clear. Seems to be OLED as far as I can tell, which means individual pixels or lasers lighting up, which is nice. So I'm a fan of their head-up display implementation so far, if that's your kind of thing, but it annoys me that some of the features in the head-up display are directly in my line of sight, and lowering the, you know, you can change the adjust where the head-up display is. That only affected the lower section, which wasn't already in my line of sight. So I'm not really sure what that's all about, but maybe that's something they'll keep working on. But head-up display kind of throws something way out in front of you, and then we'll eventually pull it back in. I'll try to put like some footage over top of this if they provide us any, just to kind of show what I'm looking at. But yeah, it's like a fine implementation, but not really the best. And I'm guessing this is
a non-drive-through
a Starbucks without a drive-through. Of course. That's okay. Let's test the turning radius and stuff in the parking lot, because that's really where the maneuverability, I think, makes a huge difference. All right, sorry, our Starbucks plan was foiled because it's not a drive-through, but let's showcase the rear wheel steering. So rear wheel steering seems to cut a full meter off the turning circle of the normal, I almost said Escalade IQ, Vistic. And this is pretty impressive, dude.
Yeah, it looks good.
So the rear wheels can do up to 3.5 degrees of rear steer. That's not a lot, honestly. You have what, the Hummer that'll do something like 10?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe not quite 10, but close to that. Of course, you got EQS doing 10 degrees. But other cars do less. This does less, but still does make a difference. But I'm still like, is this worth the huge upcharge?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth on this one, man. Let's drive back. I also want to mention the steering ratio is a little bit slow, but I think that's kind of expected for a vehicle of this caliber, this size, so not a big deal. But if that's something you're wanting to be tighter, that's okay. I'm always curious about slow steering racks because there are benefits. You know, Mazda notably tries to make a driver-focused three-row SUV as the CX-90. They say the slow steering ratio allows you to have more precise inputs. I mean, each degree you turn is like a very, very specific level of degree of which way you're looking. So I don't know, that's one way to do it. There's two different ways. I don't know. The complete opposite, of course, is, you know, steer by wire, where it's like a much less shorter range of motion to go the same amount of steering. So I'm curious. I think I'd rather have steer by wire. I've kind of been ruined by Cybertruck. Of course, it has all of its issues, but the Cybertruck does. But steer by wire is such a cool, interesting system. So I don't know if this rack really varies much at speed. Of course, the rear wheel steering does. It I don't know the exact miles per hour. They were going to try to find that out for us, of when it switches from in or countering the front wheels to give you a tighter turning circle to then being in line with the front wheels at highway speed to give you a much smoother lane change experience. So we're gonna go try that now. We're gonna take the highway a bit longer than we did before and actually yeah, try out Super Cruise on that, and then we'll go back, give some final thoughts back at the ranch, golf course, horse thing. All right, we've been driving on the highway. I can show you the clip I just tried to get of the heads-up display, although the refresh rate of the laser / pixels, whatever, is hard for the camera to perceive. You can kind of see what the augmented reality thing is doing, showing you, what the radar sees if it's clear in the lane, when it has to do a lane change, when it's looking for a lane change, when it's executing the lane change. But then here we come to the limitations. If I was an FSD, it would just take this exit, but the car isn't. It's smart enough to know not to execute a pass right before the exit, but it's not really smart enough to take the exit. So jumping back onto non-pre-mapped roads, but the big benefit of the Vistiq and hopefully future cars as we make our way down the lineup, getting more software improvements, is lane centering everywhere. That is fantastic. I feel like pretty much every car should have that now. And hey, that's one thing that separates this from the Rivian R1S, at least for now. But Rivian, of course, is working on their ADAS as well and has future-proofed their stuff to have really good improvements down the road. So all we can report on is what is happening right now. So yeah, we live in this world where FSD is leagues ahead of everyone else. But this system still is pretty good. Being pre-mapped, done through LiDAR by a tertiary company, means that it handles it very well. So we have that going for it. I'll set cruise control here. Oh, this lane's pre-mapped too. Nice surprise. The map doesn't seem to show it super well. Usually it shows a white line on the road. Maybe that's in a different place, different setting. Oh, here we go. No?
It's supposed to recenter. I think it's lost.
It's lost where we are.
Oh no, yeah, it's
oh,
on
here
this
we go.
one it shows it, but not on the
That's
driver
interesting.
one.
So at least that shows what was pre-mapped, which is great. But it is a slight, I don't know, it brings me sadness when I get to the end of a pre-map zone. It says please manually drive, basically, which is still lane centering, which is nice, but notably a bit more limited. So hopefully we can test this in our hogback as soon as possible, because I'd love to try both Super Cruise, but also see how the limits of the normal lane centering are. What can it do without pre-mapping that it would normally need pre-mapping for, vice versa. So I guess we'll cruise back, finish this video up. We've been blasting the sound system. It's been honestly really, really good. The headset speakers, I think, do add just a little nuance of niceness. I do wish there were more adjustments, though. Instead of just a 3-band EQ, then that's really it. I'd rather see a 5-band EQ, maybe separate subwoofer control, just a few more ways to dial it into my true liking. But I'm going to say this is one of the best systems.
Yeah, for a non-audio nerd as myself, it's perfectly fine, and it does an amazing job. The 3-band controls enough for me, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you and Kyle just basically put the bass to the maximum, and this car does handle it, although you can't put anything in the door pockets.
Yeah, I bring it to maximum, play a good song, and then adjust it from there to where I can have stuff in my doors, because I always leave stuff in my doors.
Yeah, otherwise it'll all shake and rattle and stuff. But yeah, this is great. I love this thing. Okay, it still has my issue with all Cadillacs, by the way. The center creaks when you really touch it. I mean, it's not a big issue because you're not usually touching it, but it's like, I don't know, this stuff doesn't feel like the luxury that it's somewhat advertising. Like when I look at, this is 95 grand what we're driving, and this feels a bit worse than the base model Rivian. Just a Cadillac thing, unfortunately. Maybe they'll put nicer materials, or you go to the Celestiq and then just have epitome of nice materials everywhere.
Make it timeless. Never let it fade. Make it timeless. Never let it fade.
That's pretty great. Supposedly that's copyright free, so we should be okay. Tom's used that in some audio reviews, but that wasn't Dolby Atmos. So now we've had a taste of stereo and Dolby Atmos. This sound system rocks. I still have a slight leaning preferential wise towards EX90's Bowers and Wilkins, just from like, I don't know, that just feels like a bit more nuanced and has more character, whereas this feels like studio reference. And that maybe is personal taste type of thing. I think some people would probably like this more. Either way, I don't think you can go wrong. This thing sounds really good.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't sound hollow, it's good enough for me.
All right, Tijmen, so what are your final thoughts first of all?
I think the air suspension needs to be softer, and it still seems the same as the stock suspension, or the base suspension, not stock. But other than that, I like the design way more of these two than the sport or the luxury. So I think it's worth spending it just based on the interior and the front grille alone.
Yeah, I think there's two arguments to be had here. If you are just Team Cadillac or Team GM and you want like a 3-row SUV, even if you don't really need the third row but just want a lot of space, just have this as a 2-row with the third seats always folded down. Loads of space. It's a smaller, more manageable footprint than the Escalade IQ, much lower price tag than the Escalade IQ. That being said, when you look at the actual price tag, I think the Sport is a compelling option because it has the blacked out stuff. I don't love the chrome, so I'd probably go Sport, which I think that is. If you want to show that off, that's got the smaller wheels at least, so it makes.
Yeah, that's the Sport because the arches are still black in the bottom.
Yeah, right. So that would be the Sport. That's probably what I would do. Just, you know, upper 70s, basically 80 grand. I don't think the 80 amp charger is worth speccing. 48 amps is plenty for this battery size, and just go with it. You miss out on the augmented reality, which I don't think is a big deal. I don't find it that great. I mean, it's fine, it's interesting, but it's not worth making a buying decision on. You still get the audio system, which is very important to me, so that's good enough. You miss out on rear wheel steering, which I don't think is a big deal. Only 3.5 degrees. It's not like game changing as far as how this maneuvers, but it does help. So it depends how much you care about maneuverability, and depends how much you care about suspension height adjustment, because it is cool to see, you know, like that Platinum one right there sits pretty. I mean, floored, slammed like that, looks good. So if you care about how you look when you roll up somewhere, drop it. That's cool. But I don't feel like all those things are necessarily worth it. So it's interesting. I came into this time and thinking, okay, if you're going Vistic, and that's where I'm getting to. If you're GM, just go full Platinum. Call it a day. That thing looks perfect. There's nothing I would really change. Even the wheels are great, and usually wheels are the first thing I would change on a lot of the GM cars. So if you're Team GM exclusively, that's the one to get. If you're just shopping around, it's really hard for me to say get that over Rivian R1S or Lucid Gravity.
Yeah, I think
even Kia EV9 exists in this price point.
I think EV9's on the, if you're going base for base, EV9's cheaper.
Way
and I think
cheaper.
a way better buy.
Yeah.
But I think even if you're getting mid-tier Vistic, I think personally R1S is for me.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Some people really don't like Rivian's design. It's different vehicle, so I don't know. Let us know what your thoughts are. This is kind of all of our cumulative thoughts. Make sure you watch not only this video, but also the one Kyle and Tijmen did with the Sport or luxury model, and even my first look to get, you know, some of the early impressions. It's been interesting to see the story of this car as it's come out. I really like the Vistic. I think it's in my opinion, one of the most compelling IQ options. And if you need 3 rows, this is a much cheaper way to do it than the Escalade IQ. Escalade IQL is sick, but that's a lot of money compared to this. So I think this is a compelling option. Curious if you guys agree or disagree, and do you think that like 15 grand jump from Sport to like Platinum is really worth it? Thanks for watching.